Okay, so the format, the clicker works as well, by the way. That's what we've done. So yes, meeting the green challenge, L&D's part in the journey to net zero, so probably the most important battle of our time. So I'm Rob Hubbard from LAS, and I'm really delighted to be here with Tess from LAS, David from Fosway, and Lau from Arup as well. So the way that we're going to structure this is we've got 3 5-minute presentations. So David's going to scare the bejesus out of you, first of all. Tess is going to show you a little bit of hope and positivity, and then Lau's going to show you actually what you can do within an organisation, a large and complex organisation. So let's have a look. We've only got a few votes coming in at the moment. So, well, as you would expect in this kind of session, lots of you are very focused already. So thank you for coming along. We're looking forward to learning from you as much as you'll learn from us. But equally, not focused and slightly focused, we've got a fairly even split there. So we did run this poll as well on LinkedIn a few days ago and on Twitter. And the balance is slightly different, as you would expect. You know, you guys are interested in this stuff. That's why you've come along to this session. But in LinkedIn, so we had 40% of people were not focused on this at all, 33 were slightly focused, and 27 very focused. And note that we're using the word consciously focused here, so it's not enough just to go, oh, we do digital, therefore we're green. It's like, no, are you thinking about this stuff? Are you counting the carbon cost? Are you making decisions so that you can reduce the impact on the environment, help your organisation be more sustainable? Twitter, we didn't have quite so many people fill out that one, but the split is broadly the same, as you can see on that last one. So I guess the good news is that it's starting to come onto people's radars, and that's only going to be more so. But I will hand over to David to give you some of the context and why.
That's very kind. So I don't know if you recognise this gentleman called John.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if you recognise this gentleman, I'm sure you do. Antonio Guterres, who's the Secretary General of the United Nations. I don't know if you know when he said this. He said, climate change is the defining issue of our time, and we are at a defining moment. Any ideas on how long ago he said that?
30 years.
30 years. Unfortunately, he wasn't Secretary General then. Actually, it's a more recent quote, but 30 years would have been actually not a bad guess, because Rio was in 1990. We've not done anything for 90 years. And actually, the level of carbon in the atmosphere has increased 60% in those last 30 years. So it gives you a sense of the size of the challenge. He actually said that in 2018. So that's 4 years ago. And this is the IPCC. So they're the panel who look at climate change, a congregation of scientists who validate the research and write their reports. They said this 2 years ago, that we can act on climate change, but time is running out. The clock keeps ticking and keeps ticking down. And this is from their latest report. In terms of where we are, the present situation is 2022. We have up until 2030 to try and make sure we're on track for 1.5 degrees of warming. As one of my favourite climate scientists says, a guy called Kevin Anderson, 1.5 is not a good destination, but it's better than 2, which is really, really bad. So we're not on this, if we don't start acting soon, then we don't get to 1.5, which is the green line. And we have to start to make the sorts of cuts that we experienced during the pandemic every year. And he's got some great presentations. But already we're feeling the change or impact of climate change. In Madagascar, they had their first famine, which was attributed directly to climate change. And that instance is likely to change or increase as time goes by. So this great quote from Antonio again, I've chosen a neutral figure. I could have chosen lots of people to say things. Climate activists are sometimes depicted as dangerous radicals, but the truly dangerous radicals are the countries that are increasing the production of fossil fuels. We're supposed to cut our production actually in 2034, according to a report from the Tyndall Research Group, as a rich country. So there's lots of things that are going on, but it's lots of things that are also happening outside of climate change as well, or the incidental impact of climate change.
I'm a big fan of butterflies. I hope that you are too. They're an indicator species. Over the last 50 years, we've lost 50% of our insect population. And that's indicative of both climate change and pollution. In the European Union alone, we're reliant on 78% of native flora and 84% of crops on being pollinated by insects. Insect life is declining rapidly and has an impact on us. Just look at the number of pollinators, of different plants that are pollinated and the number of crops. So this is something that's affecting us through climate change. But it's not just climate, it's also the oceans. The coral bleaching happens because of acidification of the ocean. As carbon increases, the acidification increases as well. So the view of coral, which you live in abundant environment, is being impacted. And again, this is from an American government group, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. I've chosen very neutral organisations, and I could have chosen others. Their report came out in 2018 about the dangers of acidification in their sectors. So now is the time, the evidence is clear, we can make a change, but we need to make radical change, and that's us as individuals, but also as organisations and L&D teams. So that's really my call to action. I could put a lot scarier slides, to be honest, but I thought I'd use the moderate ones.
I did ask David to take it down. I mean, obviously it's quite a depressing situation that we find ourselves in, but all is not lost, or at least not yet, and change is starting to occur. Tessa's going to tell us how and where.
So I think although David presented quite a scary picture, and all of you here, you're here because you're interested in environmental issues and sustainability, so you know that the time is fairly critical. We do see some changes coming. So the UN Race to Zero, there's over 5,000 organisations have signed up for that. Yours is possibly one of them. We've got government imperatives. We've got conscious consumerism. So on Saturday, I was sitting in the garden in the sunshine reading a couple of magazines. In my running magazine, there was a 4-page spread on eco equipment. So eco trainers, eco shorts, things that you could get that were sustainable to run in. And then I went on to Real Homes magazine, because I'm a very exciting person. And in that there was a 4-page spread about how to choose eco-friendly things for your home, and how to choose suppliers that are eco-friendly as well. And they quoted Retail Week, which said that nearly 15% of people who are buying, of consumers, are making choices now around the organisations based on their sustainability, based on their kind of ethical stance and what they're doing to help the environment and society. We've seen activism with Extinction Rebellion. I'm sure many of you had trouble getting petrol in the last few weeks. And the global energy crisis has made it even more critical that we do something now. So is this a new model for business? Well, at LAS we're a B Corp. We've been a B Corp for exactly a year now, which is really exciting. So B Corps are companies which put sustainability and the environment and society alongside profit in their organisations. And in the UK, we've seen an increase by 120% of businesses applying to be a B Corp in the last year, which is absolutely incredible. And I've spoken to some of our fellow digital learning companies as well here who are interested in becoming that too. So our question really is, how is your organisation responding to all of these things? Because being green, it isn't a nice to have anymore, it's essential, and increasingly it's essential to your bottom line. It's not something that's separate to your business, it will be fundamental to your business or your organisation. So in digital learning, we can feel pretty smug because we're doing some things already that help us to be more green. So if you're not traveling to a workshop, then you're saving, if say there was 20 people traveling 20 miles, you're saving the equivalent of 1 hour of flying in carbon, which is fantastic. So we're saving on food waste because we're not having to feed people. We're saving on energy with heating, lighting, air conditioning, and we're also saving on paper. But if you look and see if you can find any studies on this, it's actually really difficult to find any. And the most recent one was in 2008, which is an incredible 14 years ago. and that was the Open University, who said, as you can read there, that distance learning courses on average involved 87% less energy consumption and 85% fewer CO2 emissions than turning up to a classroom. But is that the whole story? So the thing with digital sustainability is it's not really talked about that much. But as you can see here, there are some statistics which might surprise you if you don't already know. So the internet as a whole has the same amount of emissions as the airline industry, pretty much, give or take. Or the same amount of emissions if it was a country as Germany. We're standing in Docklands now, which is one of the data hubs for the UK. And the data centres here, an average size data centre, will run probably in a year the same amount as a city the size of town, the size of Maidenhead, which has about 60,000 people in it. So there's an incredible use of energy there. Well, how can L&D help? Well, we are in the business of behaviour change. We're in the business of change. So we're really well placed to be able to move the dial on this. It may be in the choice of technology that we're using and the choice of things that we are putting in our learning. So for example, a video or a VR experience will use a lot more energy than an image or an animation. So there are some choices that we can make, and we want to get together and discuss what people are doing and what we can do, and hopefully share some good experience around that. So next, we can move on to Lau from Arup, and she can tell you a little bit about what they've been doing at Arup to be sustainable.
Thank you. I feel actually I should be sharing examples of what we're doing in the L&D team, but I think what I'm going to be sharing is an example of how we've been raising awareness around sustainability within the firm, so everybody can kind of bring its own context and do what they can rather than us running everything virtual. I think we're all doing things virtual now because we have to. So that's not me. Yeah, so I'm Lau Romani Singh, and I am the training manager for a company that's called Arup. We are a multidisciplinary firm of engineers, designers, technical experts. Our goal is to develop a truly sustainable built environment, and our mission statement is that we shape a better world. So thinking quite big, yeah. So Arup, what we do at the core, just goes in line with everything that we're saying. That means that me, as part of the L&D team, I kind of have two roles. Part of the training that we offer is to ensure that those designers, engineers, have those key technical skills to be able to work on sustainability projects. And that is training that would mean nothing to us. If I sat in any of those courses, it would mean nothing to me. I wouldn't be able to relate to it or apply any of the learning. The other part of my role is obviously in the personal development space, leadership space, and ensuring that our values that we share in Arup, they're a thread across everything that we do, and sustainability is one of those values. So for the past couple of years, we've been thinking, how can we get everybody engaged in L&D, not those engineers and technical experts that they just know it, but how can me in the people team, or those in finance or IT, how can they get engaged in L&D and get enthused about talking, not L&D, sustainable development, sorry. So last November, to coincide with COP26, we launched a Sustainable Development Learning Campaign, which is a two-part campaign. First part is about building awareness, and it's a campaign that took place across 4 weeks. We hosted it in Moodle, which is our LMS. The structure was basically that we spent some time curating a lot of content from the internet, content that we have internally, content from LinkedIn Learning. So we didn't actually design any of the content, but we curated, and we shared it on a daily basis. So something like a TED Talk on net zero, or sharing our sustainable development policy. The rules, because it wasn't just a campaign, it was a competition, we needed to get people, wanting to take part. So they enter individually or they enter as a team. The more content they engaged with, the more points, the more chance to win a prize. Pretty simple. Prizes were like a vegan cookbook or a bamboo salad bowl, nothing crazy. The key thing for us, though, was that the content that we share had to be relevant to everybody, not just those engineers that we know are going to be working on a green bridge, for example, but for everybody, like I was saying. So for us, the important thing was to share content with everybody and that everybody gave it its own context. We had an engagement of around 30% of our population in our region, that's around 1,300 people, which is a lot. So for like 4 weeks, we had 1,300 people knowing that they were engaging with SD content. So that was super positive for us. So that was part one, building awareness. Part two, which launched yesterday, is about demonstration of the application. So how can we implement all this knowledge that we shared with you back in November? How can you do it? How can you implement it on your day-to-day life? And whether that is our day-to-day tasks, and whether that's at work or at home. This campaign is taking place across a longer period of time, and it's 3 months. So it started yesterday and finishes at the end of July. The structure is a little bit different. So instead of sharing content, we share ideas with you. So ideas about how can you share content with others, how can you write about content, how can you reflect about the content that you've been engaging with, seeking opportunities and action planning, and further learning. The rules are the same, but the competition you enter it individually. It's more about self-reflection than actually learning as a team. And the engagement, we don't know, we just launched, so if they invite us next year, I'll tell you about it. So this is super simple, really, what I've just shared, but for us, for like a massive firm, sustainability is at the core, but still we struggle to get people engaged with sustainable development, unless it's because of the project they're working on. So in summary, for a 9-month period of time, from November to July, people will have been engaged on sustainable development for 4 months. That's pretty good. I mentioned about the engagement, to say we're not experts. I designed it with my colleagues. I'm not a SD expert at all. There's so much content out there, so it's just about taking the time to curate what's there already available for us. What people liked, at least from the first part of the campaign, was that they knew for the following 4 weeks that they had to spend like 20 minutes a day engaging with content. We'd send it over to them. And they knew the content was pre-curated, so they knew they could trust the source where it was coming from. For us, we finally were able to prove that sustainable development is for everyone, so not for those technical experts that are part of our firm as well. And it is just all about the context. It means something different for everybody. Not about what you can do for your firm, but what you can do personally. And I think what we're learning is about continuous small steps, just making sure we don't remain still, and we're always doing something, even if it's super small. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you very much. So we've had now the global perspective from David. So we see what there is to lose. We've then had the sea change that Tess has shown us, the movement is beginning, and then we've got a really great specific example there from Arab. So what we want to do now is we saw on our donut that a whole load of you, the majority in fact in this room, are already consciously doing stuff in this area. So what we want to do is get you together and get you to talk and share what you are doing. So where's the... we would like to, you're probably going to want to get together so that you're near enough to speak to people. If that's okay, the conversation with yourself will be a bit one-sided. Well, they're sometimes the best, aren't they? And if you can answer this question, so as an L&D professional, what are you already doing in your organisation to be greener? So what we're hoping here is we get a load of practical stuff that people like us, working in a function like ours, in organisations similar to ours, are already doing. So let's spend about 5 minutes on that, please. I've got one more question for you after this. I'll give you 5 minutes.
Yes. I'm going to hand that over to you, John. You speak, I'm going to untangle myself.
Well, we've mainly been talking about how we work from home the majority of the time, even more so than pre-COVID, in our various jobs. So we're not travelling to the office, and we're not requiring other people to travel anywhere for training, because the training's being delivered online. But you didn't get a chance to speak.
I have two perspectives because I work in a consulting organization, so I can see what we're doing, but I also support my client with learning transformation. What they're doing is actually increasing the awareness of their employees through some very immersive and engaging game-like experiences. So it's not just asking them to do e-learning, which might be perceived by some as outdated and not very engaging or interesting. They're actually asking people to get in this immersive environment, play games, play simulations, and actually live in this immersive world.
Wow.
Or we're trying to teach them. My company, I would say, being a big consultancy, cutting on travel, carbon emissions,
Yeah.
cutting on printing, redoing our offices to be more sustainable, to cater for hybrid learning, therefore decrease the need for employees to travel to the office.
Yeah.
So quite a lot of things.
So
Quite-
they're playing the games to kind of try that stuff out, see the impact that has in the game.
Yes, and the games are
Yeah.
looking to teach different concepts connected with sustainability to help them understand not just the statistics,
Yeah.
but also what might be some things that are just beyond the statistics, some actions,
Yeah.
some reflections that can then they take into their professional life, but also the personal life. We are in the middle of developing the game, so
Very
we
cool.
haven't really reached the end yet.
Yeah, that's great.
So I can't
Well,
comment on that.
come back in later years and do a case study on it. That'd be awesome. I'd love to hear from that. Thank you so much. Right, I'm going to go, but I'm not going that way.
Yeah, ladies.
Hi, I'm Simon, and I think to your point here, learning or making green is a good business. So we're doing two key initiatives. Where one thing is that it's a part of our leadership program. Our 6,000 top leaders need to go through a green academy as part of the behavioral change that we want to drive. So that's one piece, but the other piece is to linking our training activities to business outcomes, which means that we are not only linking to business outcomes, but to the impact that it does in the environment. In our sector, it's IoT and data that will enable the green transformation. So we're building training programs that will enable the business with a lot of purpose.
Yeah, superb.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's. I did have this other question in our. This was in our back pocket. If you put up, in case we asked, we did the first question. Everybody went, no, we're not actually doing very much at the moment. But I think it's brilliant. There's only a small crowd of you here, but look at all of the stuff that you're doing, all your different organisations, all your different initiatives. Absolutely superb. So what we're going to do, we've been capturing all of those frantically in written notes. We will put all of those together. We put together a LinkedIn group, which is just where we can start sharing all of this stuff. You know, so if there are things like games that help you, there's one that I found on Financial Times that I'll share there, where you get to you try to kind of get us within 1.5 degrees of global warming, and there's all of these different decisions that you need to make, and it's all based on the most advanced modelling that they've got at the moment. So things like that which are free, they're in the public domain, we can get people in our organisations using them. So the idea is let's all share stuff like that. There is a place for discussion and reflection and supporting each other. So yeah, if you'd like to join that, you'd be very welcome. And I hope, I'm so glad that you did come today, and what we've done hopefully is we've started the conversation at this little lunchtime session. So thanks again to our wonderful speakers, David, Lau and Tess, for providing the catalyst for the discussion today, and thanks to you all for all your great ideas and contributions. So I'll let you get on with your day at the conference.